This map doesn't make any sense. Take a look. Almost an entire country looks empty. Yet, millions of people are squeezed into one narrow strip right next to the United States. This is Canada. Canada is the second largest country on Earth. A country so big, you could fit several European countries inside it. And yet, more than 90% of Canadians live within about 160 kilometers of the US border. Think about that for a second. The biggest obstacle was never the air, it was the ground. At first, Canada looks like paradise. Endless forests, crystal clear lakes, mountains stretching to the horizon. It almost feels untouched. But beneath that beauty lies one of the oldest rock formations on Earth, the Canadian Shield. It covers almost half the country. And that's a problem, because underneath those forests is solid rock, covered by only a thin layer of soil, which makes farming extremely difficult. For thousands of years, the world's greatest cities grew where food was easy to produce. But here, the land was fighting back. And this was only the beginning. Because farther north, Canada hides another obstacle, one that's invisible until you try to build on it. The Canadian Shield was only the first obstacle. The farther north you travel, the stranger Canada becomes. Because hidden beneath the surface is something you can't always see. Permafrost, ground that stays frozen year after year. At first, that doesn't sound like a big problem until you try to build on it. Roads begin to crack, buildings slowly sink, pipelines shift, even the ground refuses to cooperate. The farther north you go, the more expensive everything becomes. Every road, every bridge, every power line, every school, every hospital, every kilometer costs more than the last. Suddenly, the question isn't, can people live here? Of course they can. People have called northern Canada home for thousands of years. The real question is, can millions of people build cities here? For most of history, the answer was no, but even that doesn't explain the biggest mystery. If the North was difficult, why did almost everyone choose to live so close to the United States? The answer goes back hundreds of years. When the first European settlers arrived, they didn't move north. They followed the water, the Atlantic coast, the St. Lawrence River, the Great Lakes. Back then, rivers were highways. They carried people, food, trade, ideas. Where boats could travel, towns appeared. Where towns grew, roads followed, then railways, then factories, then businesses, then millions of people. And once a city becomes successful, it attracts even more people, more jobs and more schools, more hospitals, more opportunity. So every new generation made the same choice, not because the North was impossible, but because everything they needed already existed in the South. Little by little, Canada's population didn't spread across the country. It gathered in one narrow corridor. And more than 200 years later, that pattern still hasn't changed. Could that ever change? Probably not, because the forces that shaped Canada never disappeared. The rock is still there, the frozen ground is still there, and the distances are just as enormous. Building new cities across northern Canada would cost billions. Roads, railways, power lines, airports, hospitals, schools, everything would have to be built from the ground up. And there's one more problem. Why would millions of people move there when Canada's biggest cities already have everything they need? Jobs, universities, businesses, and hospitals, opportunity. It's much easier to grow an existing city than build a new one from nothing. That's why Toronto keeps growing, Vancouver keeps growing, Montreal keeps growing. Not because the rest of Canada is impossible to live in, but because history already chose where the population would settle. When most people look at Canada, they see empty land. But empty doesn't mean useless. Those forests build homes. Those rivers generate electricity. Those mountains hide valuable minerals. Those lakes hold one of the world's largest supplies of fresh water. Maybe that's exactly what makes Canada so special. Not because it's full of people, but because it still has something many countries lost long ago. Space, wild places, silence, nature, on a scale that's becoming harder to find. So why is Canada so empty? It wasn't the cold, at least not by itself. The real answer was written into the land long before the first cities or the first roads ever existed. Sometimes we think people shape countries, but more often, the land shapes the people. And perhaps that's the real story of Canada. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Roomi Originals, because every place has a mystery, and every mystery has a story. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.